Hey folks, Machinery Pete here. Last Monday, I was in Mitchell, South Dakota for kind of a special event, a very special event. It was the Open House Week, Customer Appreciation Day for Scott Supply Company. Now, I met Chris Scott, pictured in the middle here, with his dad Bob on the right and his uncle John on the left. Met Chris recently at a dealer meeting in Chicago and learned about Scott Supply Company. They've been in business 101 years now. And I sort of invited myself out to their open house. Chris was very, very kind and had me out. Boy, I had so much fun learning about the company. They're a single store, which is so fun to see these days, a single store dealership still getting it done and serving the customer. Now on the website, Chris, a number of years ago, did a beautiful job. Their website is scottsupplyco.com, but he's telling the history of the company. And Chris is the fourth generation Scott to be involved with the company here. And in the upper left there, that is his great-grandfather, Lewis Scott, who founded the company in 1915. So really cool history on the website. And boy, I sure had fun at the event. Chris and Bob and John did just a fantastic job. So many customers came in to their beautiful facility, which they added on to in 2010. Plenty of room there, and it was really fun to be there. Now, one thing that came shining through, so many customers talked about Wally. Now, Wally, you see here seated in the golf cart next to Chris. This was back in 2014. Wally just passed away last September at the age of 99 years and 11 months, almost made 100. And Wally was Lewis's son, and he's Bob and John's father and Chris's grandfather. And boy, a lot of people spoke so highly of Wally. Here's a picture of him mowing. I'm sorry the picture's not bigger, but Wally was known far and wide for mowing every month, almost right up until he passed away last fall. And he had his trusty Cub Cadet, and the guys told me that Wally liked to mow about 2 in the afternoon. Now it gets a little hot out there in Mitchell, South Dakota, but Wally liked to have his morning coffee and then mow in the afternoon. Quite a guy. And here's a picture of Wally last year at the open house event with farmer customer Lewis Bainbridge. And Lewis was one of the guys who told me about Wally and said, "Pete, what a guy." Now, actually, what we did, I shot a fun video interview with Bob Scott on the left, son Chris in the middle, and Uncle John Scott on the right, talking about the company and the history and talking about Wally. Now, before we hop into the interview, I shot a little video of Chris at the Customer Appreciation event last Monday, talking about how this was the first year without Grandpa Wally there. So let's go to that video and then the interview now to learn about Scott Supply Company's 101-year history in the farm equipment business.
Just a few weeks shy of his 100th birthday. Grandpa and Scott Supply were both born in 1915. He was a shining example of how to live life and a part of so many memories. Wherever Grandpa went, he always carried a camera, and we're fortunate he preserved our family business's history with his pictures. So in memory of Grandpa, when I get done, and for the rest of the night, up on the screen we're going to show a slideshow of pictures of just Grandpa and his life at Scott Supply. I'm thankful he passed down such a successful business to my dad and John and me, and I miss him an awful lot. Whew. Now the hard part's over.
Hey folks, Machinery Pete here. This is really fun. I'm out of Mitchell, South Dakota today at Scott Supply Company. Now, 2 weeks ago I met Chris in the middle here, Chris Scott, at a Case IH dealer meeting, and we got visiting. And really cool story here. Scott Supply Company now goes back 101 years, guys.
101, yes.
Very cool. And on the left here we have Bob Scott, Chris's dad. And on the right we have John Scott, Bob's brother. And I understand, Chris, you were telling me that your grandpa, Wally, who we have right on the wall over here, just passed away last fall at the age of 99.
99. Just short, about a month short of his 100th birthday.
Almost 100. So Bob, that was your dad.
That's
Wally.
my dad, yeah.
And what year did he get into the business?
Well, actually, he started in the business right away. He was born in 1915, and then actually they had a little farm out there north of Mount Vernon. But so he did a little farming, but basically he was back and forth working the farm and then working the dealership. So I'd say in 1935 he was real active.
So he's been 20 years old then?
20 years old, yes.
And your grandpa Lou got started in 1915?
Yes.
Was he also in the car business?
Yes, he signed the International Harvester contract in 1915. In fact, he has the original contract that he signed. And then they sold gasoline, International Harvester equipment, and then Buick cars.
Okay.
So,
And the original Scott Supply Company store was in Mount Vernon, South
Vernon,
Dakota?
South Dakota, which is 12 miles west of Mitchell, South Dakota.
And how
They're
big?
right on I-92.
Okay. How big is Mount Vernon?
300 people.
300 people.
300
I love it. That is awesome. And the store stayed in Mount Vernon until...
We moved over here in Dad moved here in 61, and then the store remained open through the middle 60s, and then it closed, and we moved everything to Mitchell.
Okay. Well, you guys realize you're kind of heroes here in the farm equipment business. A single store, just rocking it out here, doing your thing. Nothing against the multi-stores. That's fantastic. But it was just amazing to see how you guys have grown through over a century, 101 years. So you moved here in 61?
61, yeah.
And Bob, what did your dad, Wally, was he nervous at the time about moving to Mitchell?
Yes, my dad was very conservative. His dad and him went through the 30s, the dirty 30s out here in South Dakota.
Wind was blowing?
Wind was blowing. Russian thistles were piling up in the ditch, and so he had some tough times. I remember he told me that when Grandpa and him were in the store in Mount Vernon, the collectors would come in the door and they would stand there waiting to get a bill that needed to be paid. And finally, Lou would go over to the cash register and reach in and get out a $10 bill and give it to the collector, and then they would leave just to appease him for a while.
Wow.
So you can see what he went through. So
Right.
when it was time to make the decision to come to Mitchell, he was very, very nervous.
And how old were you then, Bob?
Well, I was actually in 60. I was a junior in high school,
Okay.
and in that was 61. I graduated from the high school, but that's the year that he started building over here. But
Okay.
like I told you, my mother and I had to convince him really hard to come here. We knew Mount Vernon wouldn't be there because it's a small town. We needed to get to a bigger town.
Sure.
And he came over, but he just said, have a little, have it paid for, don't get yourself out on a limb. Used equipment and accounts receivable will break you. All those things I remembered and learned all my life. And it actually affected me too. I try to be conservative, but it's kind of hard to do that these days.
Right.
So.
And that, like you say, those lessons just don't go away, do
No.
they, John? They just stay with you from when the time you were young, drilled into what your folks were saying, I suppose, huh?
Exactly.
Well, so what did, as the business grew and was very successful and just kept growing, what did your dad, what did Wally say? He must have looked back and thought it was the right move, obviously.
I think he did, but I remember I had a farmer that farmed, but he was the Phillips 66 distributor, and we bought all of our fuel from him.
Okay.
But he bought all of his equipment. He put a lot of hay up, and we were really good friends. And he told me one day we had ordered like 15 175 windrowers, and they were all lined up out west here. And my dad told Cy Young, he said, that kid's going to break me. Because he said, I got all of those windrowers out there. But we sold every one of those windrowers that year.
Now you were telling me, guys, that your dad Wally was a great picture taker, and Chris, you were saying he took tons of pictures.
He always had a camera in his pocket. And in fact, tonight when we show our slideshow, in memory of him tonight, I had a heck of a time. He was always the guy behind the camera, not in front of it. But yeah, we're just really fortunate that he preserved our family business's history with all his pictures.
Well, he was, like we were talking, he was really ahead of his time as a picture taker, a historian documenting what was happening here now. And Grandpa Wally just passed away last fall.
Yep, in September.
At an age of almost 100.
Yep, 99. He was about a month shy of his 100th birthday.
And Chris, you mentioned when we met in Chicago that over the years, your Grandpa Wally he was always out here involved, and when in fact he mowed out here.
He mowed every blade of grass out here until he was 98.
Wow.
So we'd go out, and when he talked, usually you jump. So when we'd go out, and he'd need everybody to push the equipment back so he could mow under it and then pull it back. But that's probably one of my, most fond memories of him, was being able to go out and mow the equipment lot with him on a Saturday afternoon.
That is awesome. Must have had a lot of fun talking to your grandpa growing up.
Oh yeah.
And he would mow with a Cub Cadet, Bob, did you say?
Yeah, he had a Cub Cadet.
And I bet your customers enjoyed seeing Wally.
In fact, we have a lot of ditch, and every ditch would be mowed. I remember going to the Farm Progress Show and see all those beautiful mowed ditches in Iowa. Well, his ditches were all mowed just like Iowa ditches, and so everybody would just comment how neat he kept those ditches.
That's awesome.
Fantastic. And to this day, guys will say, "Golly, we just always remember your dad out mowing," So yeah.
So Bob and John, what was that like? Kind of growing up or in the business around it? Your dad, your grandpa. Did you guys know you wanted to be in the business when you were growing up, young guys?
It was just part of our life.
Right. Bob, same for you.
I think it was. Like I said, when we were in grade school, we were down at the shop in Mount Vernon. I remember on a real blizzardy day, they shut school down, and we were setting up F10 farmhand loaders on each farm house. So we were around it all of our life, and yes, it was. And I think as I went through the later part of high school, I figured this is kind of what I want to do. So
Now, Bob, I got to ask you, and you've seen both sides of it. So you grew up with it, you and John, with your dad. And now you have Chris, your son, Bob, coming into the business. And Chris, you came in what year?
1994.
94. And those years go by pretty fast, don't they?
I don't feel like I've been here that long, but it's totally different with him because he didn't want me to have any part of the equipment business.
Oh, he did. Now tell me about what was that all about, Pop?
I actually went to Augustana College and majored in biology.
Great school.
I was supposed to go be an eye doctor.
Okay.
I got accepted to a college of optometry in Chicago. And
really?
Finally, about a month before I was supposed to leave for Chicago, I told him, I said, this isn't really what I want to do. I'd just as soon come out to the shop. And I think he was testing me, because finally he says, all right, you better come on out.
So Pop, it got down to 1 month.
Yeah, right. Wow. Well, it didn't hurt, that he had a kind of a little bit of a sweet spot for a gal here in town, so that didn't help matters then either.
Have the Honey and Mitchell. That's
right,
good.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But,
what's it been like working with your son?
Well, it's been fantastic because for me, I'm like I always say, I'm a dinosaur when it comes to all this electronics, the internet and Twitter and all this, and I needed a young mind coming into the business. I remember when it first was 2388 come out with a moisture and a yield monitor.
Sure.
And I'm like, what in the world? I don't even know what they're talking about. Well, he took a hold of that, right away, bing bing, and we're out setting them and everything. And then look what's happened. We have now guidance, and so I don't know. It takes a young person to really understand all of that. But no, it's been fantastic. We were concerned about not expanding into another store or two, because we're trying to do it out of a single store, and I just hope, we were hoping that we wouldn't get pushed out because of we didn't have enough territory. But now when you look at what's going on here with our economy and some of that kind of stuff, that I think we're okay right now.
Yeah,
know,
you guys
know.
are in an enviable position. Of course, you did a lot of the hard work. Used inventory levels, you guys are sitting actually pretty tight here, aren't you?
Yes, yeah, we actually have really not a whole lot of used equipment right now.
Right.
We're in a prime position to trade for some. So.
Yeah, there you go.
But-
Well, there's a reason you guys have been successful for 101 years.
Well, we hope so. We hope that it'll go on for another
101.
101.
There you go. Well, Chris, what do you love? You've been just over 20 years in the biz now. What, or is it 20?
Yep,
Just yeah,
22.
goes by fast. But what do you love about the farm equipment business?
Well, just like Dad and John, I started mowing and setting up hay rakes, and
Yep.
back at that time, Lyle, who's our A1 salesman now, was the parts manager back then, and so
Okay.
he'd make us sling field cultivator shovels and disc blades, and then when I first came back, I had a small little wooden desk hooked to Uncle John's,
Okay.
and so actually wrote warranties and billed service jobs out
Sure.
and posted time and tickets and all that stuff. So I think I've done a little bit of everything.
Yep.
I will admit, getting behind the parts counter, I freeze up a little bit there. I'm not envious of those guys because one minute they got guys asking for parts for a 1943 M, and the next
Right.
minute it's a 2016 310 Magnum. So,
Right.
but I enjoy being out here with Dad and John and my grandpa, and I like selling. At first that took a lot of learning. Like I said, I
Sure.
went to college for biology, no business degree or accounting
Yeah.
or any of that stuff. But
What do you think makes for a good farm equipment salesman or sales gal?
I don't think anything we do out here you probably could have learned at college. I mean, I think you kind of got to just earn the people's trust
Yep.
and respect a little bit. I think the more I wish, I think I would have maybe gotten more of an agronomy degree. I think if you can speak the farmer's
Sure.
language, they just trust you and rely on you that much more.
How important is listening?
Huge.
Yeah.
Hmm.
You need to be a good listener.
Yeah. Well, and what would you say, Bob and John, about just long-term thinking about your customers? I mean, here we are. You guys have an open house. It's like a week-long event, and you have tons of people coming in tonight for your customer dinner, and then none of that stuff is cheap to do. But you've obviously it's been important to you guys over the years. Is that
Yes.
just treat your customers right?
Yeah. Well, like I said, we're always looking to bring in new customers,
Mhm.
but you can't forget your loyal customers that you've dealt with all these years. You
Right.
never want to forget them, and that's kind of what we do this week. We, especially tonight, we invite those people that have done a lot of business with us and just thanking them for
Right.
their business. And
No,
but
very.
again, we're always looking to be able to invite more as the years go on.
Right.
So yes.
Now, you guys, I got to ask you. You do one thing up front in the shop, and I honestly I've never seen it done before. Chris, we talked about it briefly, but on the wall, you have the names of your customers. Does that go back to when the Magnum started?
Yeah, I don't know who I did. There must be at least one other dealer that's
Okay.
doing it, because I stole the idea somewhere.
Okay.
But yeah, we've got, on the wall, we've got Magnums, Maxims, because Maxim's a bread and butter tractor
Sure.
for us, and Combines, of
Sure,
course. And I
right.
should probably start a four-wheel drive one as they
Okay.
become more and more popular. But yeah, it goes back from the introduction of the first 7100 series
Hmm.
Magnum, the first 5100 series Maxim, and then all the way back to the 1400 series Combines. We just keep a tally by year and log every
And then they-
customer's name.
Have their names up there. The first time I saw it, I started smiling. I just thought this is brilliant. You're just honoring your customers in a very simple way. But you were mentioning that as you guys get very busy, if you fall a little bit behind, maybe some folks that just purchased are saying, "Hey,
Yeah, we did
where's
that.
my name?"
Our bookkeeper, Terry, keeps that up for me, and he was gone to a basketball tournament, so
Sure.
we didn't quite get it done by yesterday morning, and I had a guy jump me yesterday. And he bought something in 2015, and he was mad that his name wasn't up there yet, so
Oh.
it's updated today.
Yes, there you go. Well, again, I just love the way you guys think. You're thinking about details, treating the customer right. And Bob and John, I suppose, through the ups and downs, I mean, there's good times in business, some challenging times, but it has to start with treating the customer with respect. I mean, just speak about that a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you got to respect him, and you got to listen, and you got to. I mean, basically, some of these customers that we've dealt with all these years are almost like our very best friends.
Sure.
You know, and you really get to know them. You know their
Right.
personalities, and so you know, it's been we've had a long relationship, and a lot of it. My grandfather, you know, dealt with their grandfathers.
Mhm.
My dad dealt with their dads, and now I dealt with dads of sons that deal with Chris, so it's all a generation
Wow.
handed down. So you know,
Very cool.
We've lived in this area all our lives, you know, grew
Right.
up here, and so yes, it's
Well, folks, if you are coming down I-90 east or west, and you come through Mitchell, South Dakota, do yourself a favor and stop in and see the good folks here at Scott Supply Company. Bob, Chris, and John, 101 years in business. It's been really fun. Thanks, guys, for sharing the history, and thanks for putting up with me coming out today, Chris.
Thank you.
And,
Just like that, I got lucky meeting you at that dealer meeting a couple
Oh.
weeks ago.
It was my pleasure to visit with you and learn more about your business, and I just love how you guys share the wisdom through the years here. And again, thanks very much. And your guys' website, Chris, for folks, it's
www.scottsupplyco.com. Believe
Scott-
it or not, there must be a Scott Supply somewhere. I had to put that CO in there.
scottsupplyco.com. 101 years in business. Thanks again, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, folks, here's what I was referencing that I saw in the front of Scott Supply Company store here. And Chris, I just love this. Why don't you tell us what you have on the wall here?
Well, I started this back when I came back to the store in '94, and I stole it from some dealer. I can't take full credit for it, but Maxims, Magnums, and Axial Flow Combines are kind of bread and butter products around here.
Yep.
So I just started from the first 1400 series Axial Flow Combine, 7100 series Magnum, and 5100 series Maxim. And so it starts from the first year they were available until now. And like
These are this is the first Magnum sheet right here.
So Magnum started in '87.
Yep.
And if you go through the 3 different posters through 2015, we just got the 2015s up. But,
And that's
we
down
got
to the right here, Chris?
Yeah, we got 925 Magnums we've sold out of our store since 1987.
Single store, Scott Supply Company, 927 Magnums.
Yeah.
That is awesome. And what do people, I mean, they must get a kick out of seeing this history on the wall.
Oh yeah, I was just telling the story. We try to get this done every year in time for our open house,
Sure.
which is this week. And yesterday we didn't have it done quite on time. And the guy was at the parts counter getting parts, and he came into my office, and he was a little miffed. He bought a Magnum from us in '15, and his name wasn't up there.
Well,
But as you can see, it's up there today.
There we go.
So we got it fixed.
That is awesome. Well, great idea, Chris. And I love how you're honoring your customers this way. Very cool.
Thank you.